stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should crumble and fall, or the mountains should tumble to the sea, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. And darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand now, stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand?
I'm the chair of the Martin Luther King Celebration Committee for the town of Brookline, and I want to welcome you to the town's official celebration of Martin Luther King Day. I think we all feel it's particularly appropriate having watched our president be reinaugurated just a few hours ago. As you were walking in, you were treated to the great talents of Notify. If we can give them a round of applause. I'm just up here to take care of a few housekeeping items and to do a few acknowledgments and thank yous, and then we'll turn things over to Malcolm Cawthorn, who's our MC for the afternoon. I want to recognize a number of elected officials who are here with us today, the 4 members of the Board of Selectmen, Betsy DeWitt, Ken Goldstein, Nancy Daly, and Dick Benka. Out there somewhere. State Representative Frank Smizik. I also want to acknowledge a former selectman and someone who's been a friend to this event and pretty much every other event in Brookline since time immemorial. Estelle Cates has sung at this event for the past 2 years and is a bit under the weather, and we just want to make sure that we're all sending our very, very best to her, and hopefully she'll have a chance to watch this because it is being taped and later broadcast on Brookline Access Television. As always, a huge thank you to the Coolidge Corner Theater. They give us this space for free. As you might imagine, the Monday afternoon of a holiday weekend is prime money-making time for a movie theater, and it speaks volumes about their commitment to this event and this town that they give us this space. Of course, all of our participants in the program, a particular shout out to Harvey Brovman and the folks from Brookline Hub. For the first time this year, you're going to see what we think is a really cool video about a great project going on at Brookline High School. And the folks from Brookline Hub put this video together for free. They came out on a Saturday and did interviews. They're here today making it happen, so we're very, very grateful to them. And finally, I want to acknowledge the committee that works year-round to put this together. If the members of the MLK Celebration Planning Committee could stand, please. And I especially want to acknowledge Steve Pressley, who's been working on this event for decades and just this week announced that he is retiring from the town after, Steve, am I getting it right, 39 years?
That's correct.
39 years, so thank you very, very much to Steve Pressley. And with that, nobody needs to hear any more from me. Let me turn things over to our MC, Malcolm Cawthorn.
Hello. Thank you, Jesse, and thank you, committee, for allowing me to MC this wonderful event for the 3rd time. It is truly something I look forward to every year. It's always a great day in Brookline, something we have celebrated since my youth. Being named after Malcolm X, I have long wondered about how I should feel towards the teachings of Dr. King. The more and more I study the two and now teach the two, I've come to find far more commonalities than most history books teach and most media portrayed in the 1950s and 60s. The brilliance of them both was the ability to convey a clear message to all Americans that what was happening in our country was bad for all Americans. The need for equality by any means necessary was a value worth risking life and limb, family and faith, and the status quo. Their ability to stand against the tide, to speak to injustice, is something every man, woman, and child should admire, adhere to, and strive to do. In the face of peril, each became an example of how to look fear in the eye for the greater good. Dr. King has changed my life. Without him, I would not have been raised in this town on Babcock Street. Without him, I would not have been able to sit in this very theater where on Saturdays I used to watch Batman serials with my good friend Sasha Bluestone. Without him, I would not be able to teach the children in this town, most of whom do not look like me. Without him, I would not be in front of you today. His intellect, his courage, his dedication are timeless. Every generation will benefit from the content of Dr. King's character. Hopefully today, we can honor that character, dignify his courage, and respect all that has made every American's life richer. Today we remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We will begin our program with music, something very important to the civil rights movement and to Dr. King and his spiritual background. Please take a moment to refer to your program. On page 6, there are translations of songs and explanations of songs. In particular, as we welcome the Arberswelt Welt Yiddish Workman Circle Community Chorus as they perform Bruderschaft Lied, a song of brotherhood and sisterhood. Thank you for that wonderful performance. Music is a very important part of this day, as well as the civil rights movement. And the chorus will have 2 more opportunities today to entice all of you with their wonderful singing. And we are truly excited for that. Thank you very much. The next presentation is something very near and dear to my heart. It is something growing in the brilliance of Brookline. Sojourn to the Past is a program that helps kids experience the many places, scenes, and people from the golden age of the civil rights movement. In February, Brookline High School will be taking their second group to embark on this life-changing journey. Beginning in Atlanta and ending in Memphis, these kids will go on a 10-day journey that will take them to encounter numerous people and numerous places that are all etched in the history books and places that have changed the life of all Americans. Please watch the video attentively as the students and teachers involved with last year's trip explain the power of their experience.
Hi, my name is Harvey Brovman. I'm the publisher of BrooklineHub.com and FeedBrookline.org, as well as the president of Advanced Digital Websites. For the last 3 years, we've interviewed Brookline teenagers as part of the BrooklineHub.com Youth Awards held every year at the Coolidge. We were honored to be asked to contribute to this project. My dad created a pastel of Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, and John F. Kennedy on an imaginary Mount Rushmore. Martin Luther King was my dad's hero. He's become my hero as well. The video that you're about to see chronicles the 10-day journey taken by 11 Brookline High School students and teacher Kate Leslie through America's Deep South. When they came back on the 11th day, they were changed. Since then, they've had a profound impact on their school and their community. They've also had a profound impact on all of us who've worked on this project. These young people came face to face with American heroes who fought injustice at the risk of their own lives. They came back armed with a clearer picture of what they want for our future. We tried our best to tell their story through their own words. We hope they inspire you the way they have us. Thank you.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Again, I'm a huge supporter of the trip. I kept mentioning kids that these are lessons that I can't do in a classroom. I can't bring John Lewis into my classroom and have him address things. I can't do that. And so this, I try to talk to them about, this opportunity that would be life changing, and I think the kids who took my advice up, they took that offer, found that was exactly what they came back with. I mean, I'd love to say I changed kids in 10 days. I don't. The trip did. They were different children when they walked back into my classroom and when I saw them in the hallway 10 days later. And so, it's worth every dime, every ounce of fundraising, every penny that's donated. It is, there really is no sticker price to put on this trip. The kids had, an experience that they will keep forever.
I think before going on the trip, I thought that what was going to be so critical for the kids is that they would sort of see history come alive, and be in the places that they'd read about in their textbooks. And as a history teacher, I thought, oh, that would be awesome for students. And that wasn't. That happened, but that wasn't what made the trip amazing. I think what made the trip amazing was that the students had conversations with people who were activists in the 1960s and 70s and drew parallels between those people and themselves, and started to realize that that some of the frustrations that these people they were talking to had gone through in the 1960s and 70s might parallel with experiences that they were having today around different issues, and that some of the strengths that those people had in the 1960s and 70s might be actually personal strengths that they truly had within themselves. Or kids who came back and said, wow, that person who I met who was 14 back during the movement and stood up to that police officer and non-violently, but stood up for what they believed in, maybe I can come back to my school and stand up for something that I really believe in a nonviolent way. And that was what was so awesome about the trip, and I could have never guessed that ahead of time.
To meet the real people, it was really inspiring because you can go down and look at the sites your whole life, but I know from meeting Holocaust survivors and people like that, like how important it is to meet people when they're still alive, because I feel like I'm that middle link to be able to meet the people and hear their stories and hear what they had to say, and then, help pass their stories along and help educate other people. And as inspiring as it was also really heartbreaking to meet daughters who lost their fathers because they were non-violently fighting for what was right and what was just. And so meeting people who, were bullied in school, who were harassed every day just trying to get a better education, it was so heartbreaking. But in the other hand, it was really inspiring, and it made me think about what I can do back at home, because although we don't face the same issues, we still have issues in our own environment that we can change as well.
Learning about the Children's March and how they left school to go march and protest against the violence going on towards African Americans and racism. That inspired me because it made me think that I can do a lot right now. It made me realize that nothing can really stop me from doing what I want. I just have to go out there, put in the effort. If I'm against something, I can just protest against it. Many ways of protesting. I learned from the march.
When we met Elizabeth Eckford from the Little Rock Nine, that was inspiring because she developed post-traumatic stress from all of the hateful things that people said. So it really hit my heart, and it was really inspiring. It definitely changed how I viewed and treat people. Like, I treated people differently before I went on the trip, and it changed how I viewed and treated people.
So several years ago before the trip, I had actually on my own retraced a very similar route because I have for a very, very long time been interested in the civil rights movement. And I remember telling the Sojourn students before we went that I had already gone to these places and I expected the trip to be really moving for me, but I was really going because I wanted them to have this experience. And the truth was that it was incredibly important for me and moving for me because when I went on my own, I didn't meet people. I went to museums and I stopped at places that had significance for me as a history teacher, and I knew the stories, but this time I met the people. And I have this very, very vivid memory of sitting in the basement of the 16th Street Baptist Church, watching Spike Lee's video, The Four Little Girls, sitting next to the mother of one of those four little girls who had died during the KKK bombing, and then being fed a meal that was out of love by the sister of one of those four little girls who had never met her older sister because she had been killed on that day.
I mean, I think one of the parts that I felt very strongly about, well, there were two parts. The Little Rock Nine, because they are my age, and a lot of times, we met Minnie Jean Brown Trickey and Elizabeth Eckford, and while they were talking, because I would have been one of those white kids if I lived there, and what would I have been doing? And what do I do now? Am I a bystander, or do I, what would I do if people came in and were tormented, no matter how they were tormented, whether it was race, disability, sexuality, whatever it was, the fact that the majority of people there were total bystanders and didn't do anything, no matter if they cared about the issue or not. They just walked by, didn't even smile because they knew that their peers would hate them for it. And a lot of times it hit close to home for me because I don't want to be one of those people, but I feel like a lot of times I was. So I think that really helped me see that, especially when Elizabeth Eckford kept saying that words hurt the most for her, and that she still has PTSD because of all the negative things people said to her.
Learning about Minnie Jean Brown, who was part of the Little Rock Nine. I mean, I knew what the Little Rock Nine was. I never really knew exactly what their story was. And so learning about that and going to integrating a school, and I go to Brookline High School, which is predominantly white, and they went to a predominantly white school, way more white than I did, but than I do now. But learning about her experience and kind of school, she just wanted to go to school, and that was just the biggest obstacle for her. And the people who walked in the voting marches and from Selma, and just voting and education, all these simple basic rights that people didn't have, and learning about them and meeting them.
Sojourn was definitely a soul-searching trip because I went not knowing exactly why I wanted to go, but when I was there, I realized that I was there for really personal reasons.
The first way it changed me, which I think is really important, is I have such a good basis of what the civil rights movement is. And I think that's so important. There's so much that we miss out on in U.S. history because it is a year. We learn it when we're younger, but in high school there's a year where you have to cover U.S. history, and a lot of times we miss very important details. And this trip cleared up, brought to light a lot of the details for the civil rights movement, the black struggle part of the civil rights movement, not other parts. We didn't hear about American Indian or the gay rights, whatever, but the specific civil rights part of it, I learned a lot about, and I think it was very awesome for me to have that part of knowledge, and it was really inspiring.
Definitely affect what I do and how I treat people in the workplace and in the future.
Like, I came back as a different person because of the trip. And even my parents say to me all the time, like, we're so happy that you were able to do this because we see differences and just how aware you are about the people around you and about the culture around you and how much you still want to learn. So I think that the trip, it really helped open my eyes to see the world around me in a way that I didn't know before. And I think that's really, really important. And that's why I'm such a big believer in the program, and I'm helping next year's trip in any way I can to help make sure that they go, because I can only talk about it as much as I can talk about it, but people need to go down there and see it themselves.
Well, it all comes back to learning about people who put themselves out there when they didn't necessarily have to. That made a lot of changes in me, and the way that the program was run also made an impact on me, because I feel like knowing that, like, it puts things in perspective for me, because raising my hand in class to just, like, give my opinion isn't as hard as it is to, like, go and give my opinion that's, like, not a popular one to people who would come back at me, you know? So I've always been a pretty shy person, and coming back from Sojourn, there's, like, it's like a level of confidence in knowing that, switch. It's like coming back from Sojourn puts in perspective what I'm facing on a day-to-day basis and makes me feel like I should have the confidence or, like, the guts to go out and, like, just say how I feel about this poem. What does this poem mean?
I think I've always appreciated it. My parents have always kind of told me about Black history, and I've always been like, okay, like, yeah, I know. Going on the trip just made me so much more self-aware. I'm aware of all these sacrifices that people made.
Well, first, I believe that the history books should give more information, put more details, because I learned a lot on the trip than from reading a history book. I realized they didn't put everything that happened in history books, so I feel like we should start off with history books. And, like, I guess schools should probably start a course on it, because the curriculum that they did, just a lot of information just thrown at you, like, that you did not know. For example, the government's involvement. I didn't know the Sovereignty Committee. I did not know much about that. I don't remember reading that in history books.
Yes, I really think that trip changed me, because I'm so much more aware of injustices now, and it's something I really want to change a lot of things in my community, and, like, hate language and all different types of things. I want to educate people about voting and all the sacrifices that people made in the 60s and 70s to make these changes now.
I feel really lucky to be part of Sojourn this year. My co-advisor, Shelley Maines, and we have a group of 13 really, really excited students. And they're a diverse group. They're coming from different experiences, different hometowns, and definitely different financial backgrounds and capabilities. So the kids are ready to work, and they want to fundraise as much as possible, and they want everyone to participate, just like last year's group did. And I think what could help us the most is definitely spreading the word about Sojourn, getting everyone in the community to know about the trip and about the positive impact that it can have on our students, and then to increase the support. My favorite quote is, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." And it's by Martin Luther King Jr.
You don't have to be intelligent to fight for civil rights. You just have to be a man. That's said by Malcolm X.
Ordinary people can do extraordinary things.
And my favorite quote is by Elizabeth Eckford. You can make somebody's day just by supporting them. You can be someone's hope someday.
If you don't vote, you don't count, by Vernon Damer.
Be the change that you wish to see in the world, and that's a quote by Gandhi.
Hate destroys the hater.
If you don't vote, you don't count.
Democracy didn't start in the 1740s with Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Alexander Hamilton, etc. It started in the 1960s with the Civil Rights Movement.
As I look back on those days, it's just like a dream, and the only thing that bothered me was that we waited so long to make this protest and to let it be known wherever we go that all of us should be free and equal and have all opportunities that others should have.
Heard the call from California, made the haul down to Alabama. March 7, 1965, brothers and sisters marching for their rights.
Be the change you wish to see. Be the change you wish to see.
Our actions change our destiny. What you gonna do, what you gonna believe, when you stand up and say, non-violence my way. Wish to see the change you wish to see. Be the change to see. Be the change.
What a powerful video. Thank you to all the people involved, especially Harvey Brovman and his production crew, and the company, the BHS school and staff that make the trip possible, and the fantastic children of Brookline High School. There's information in your program about the program itself, and a fundraiser next week, as well as a website and how to contribute. As well, we have kids here today. Some from the video went last year, some who are going in just a month. And you know, they're here today to put a face and faces to the trip. And they will be at the doors at the end of the program. And you know, please, you know, give them some attention and follow through with them. They were very excited to be a part of this, as well as excited for their trip in the very near future. Today's keynote speaker is at-large City Councilor Ayanna Pressley. Her career has been marked by history-making campaigns and a relentless determination to advance a political agenda focused on breaking cycles of poverty, cycles of violence, and cycles that have been harmful within the city of Boston. Pressley was first elected to the Boston City Council in 2009 as the only woman in a field of 15 candidates. She earned one of 4 at-large positions on the city's 13-member council. In doing so, Pressley became the first woman of color ever elected to Boston City Council. This accomplishment is in the pinnacle of Pressley's political career, which spans more than 18 years, including work with Congressman Joseph P. Kennedy and Senator John Kerry. In 2011, Pressley faced the challenging re-election campaign. Political pundits uniformly viewed Pressley as the most vulnerable incumbent, likely to lose her seat. Some media outlets suggested Pressley, who sometimes championed controversial agenda items in her first term, might not be able to muster the support necessary in Boston's historically Irish and Italian communities. She was featured on the Boston Phoenix with the headline, Ayanna Pressley, a rising political superstar whose career might be over by year's end. When the polls closed on November 8th, Ayanna Pressley had won 13 of the city's 22 wards, finished second in 3 others, and topped the overall vote. Pressley dominated in Boston's communities of color and progressive neighborhoods, but she also displayed something rare in Boston politics. She competed and won in every neighborhood and city, regardless of the neighborhood's racial makeup. The Boston Globe proclaimed Pressley's victory an extraordinary feat. During her time in office, Pressley created and is chairing a new standing committee, the Committee on Women and Health Issues, or Healthy Communities, sorry. The committee is devoted to the causes that she has always been most devoted to, stabilizing families and communities, reducing and preventing violence and trauma, combating poverty, and addressing issues which disproportionately impact women and girls. Pressley has earned local and national attention for her efforts to provide pathways to graduation for pregnant and parenting teens, ensure Boston high school students receive comprehensive sexual health education, and strengthen support services for families of homicide victims. The Boston Globe magazine named Pressley one of its 2011 Bostonians of the Year. BET recognized her with its 2011 Leading Woman Award, and every magazine named Pressley to its 2010 Power 100 list. The Urban League honored Pressley as a woman of power at its 2011 National Convention right here in Boston. Please give a warm Brookline welcome to City Councilor at Large, Ms. Ayanna Pressley.
Wow. Well, I can assure you that my remarks will be shorter than my introduction. But Malcolm, I thank you for that kind introduction. I also just want to thank Selectman Ramel, who's a dear friend of mine, for her leadership in organizing this event and for her gracious invitation. And I want to also congratulate the entire committee who made this event possible. You can clap for them. You know, looking out on all of you, I'm so heartened and really emboldened. You really are the actualization of those values that Dr. King talked about. You know, the end of the nonviolence movement, the goal for him was a beloved community. And today you are reflective of that beloved community. And so it is my honor to be with you today to honor the work and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I do appreciate this time of year where we officially as a nation pay homage to this great man, this man of God, a man of vast intellect, enormous heart, of dreams and expectations for our nation. An extraordinary man that Boston can lay claim to, for it was here that Dr. King attended graduate school at Boston University, met his future wife, Coretta, at the New England Conservatory, who would go on to be the mother of his children and his partner in his ministry and life's work, both inside and outside of the church. I appreciate this time of year to recognize this visionary who had dreams so awesome in scope that many staggered under the weight of simply considering the possibility of desegregation, equality, and justice, that they could be fully realized. I revel in the chance to revisit the complex and progressive thoughts of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., to take inventory of his bold actions and consider the indelible impact of this man who was murdered at the age of 39, who stood only 5'7" but he left the footprints of a giant behind. But I must admit, oftentimes, I struggle at these events to be fully present, to sing with sincerity as I hold hands and link arms with my neighbor to sing, "We Shall Overcome." I struggle to listen to or deliver one more speech about the dream and how it remains unfulfilled. At times, it feels trite, predictable, and static. It feels the opposite of our intent, as if we are dishonoring Dr. King by diminishing and reducing him to, albeit a profound one speech, a Negro spiritual, and a 3-day weekend. It is as though we are temporarily awakened from a slumbering state, our consciousness pricked. Each year it feels familiar, but anything but comfortable. And it is for that reason that we don't settle in. We just visit those feelings and then return to our lives, where we are inspired by Dr. King, but not motivated to take action like him. Where we are enlightened by Dr. King, but not concerned enough to sacrifice like him. Where we feel disillusionment for the ways in which Dr. King challenged us, or the stark reminder that this really wasn't that long ago, instead of conviction or courage. There's so much emphasis on the fiscal debt, as well there should be. But I maintain our greatest deficiency as a nation is empathy. When we consider the civil rights movement and all that Dr. King endured to advance it, there is so much emphasis on the struggle and the strife, but not enough of the love. An awesome love. Dr. King courageously pursued this struggle out of a love, a deep and abiding love for his fellow brother, an intrinsic belief that we are all inextricably bound together. And that is why, towards the end of his life, Dr. King launched the Poor People's Campaign, transitioning his strategies to that of a broader human rights struggle and not just a civil rights one, on the heels of President Johnson's war on poverty. Dr. King endeavored to take the movement from a place of systemic reform to a revolution of values. A revolution of values where all races are united by a commonality of hardship. History is kind and often revises things and might have you believe that this campaign was heralded and well received. It was not, especially by Black militants who considered it to be too inclusive, too progressive. I would argue that we need to summon and evoke the spirit of that revolution of values today. To stoke the flames of empathy and compassion to finish the work of the Poor People's Campaign. Sadly, President Johnson put that on the back burner due to the Vietnam War, and Dr. King was assassinated before he could see that campaign launched. It might shock you to know that I missed some things about that movement, namely the verbiage. Today we're so nuanced, so PC about these things. How can we address these ugly truths about disparity and inequality when we can't even talk about them honestly? We nod in enthusiastic agreement when Senator Warren talks about the hammered middle class and clap on cue about the dwindling and shrinking middle class. Well, where do you think they're going? And who do you think they're joining? People who have been poor for a very long time. These economic gaps won't be closed for as long as we continue to speak in niceties. We can't be polite about something that daily erodes at the fabric of our collective us. The shrinking middle class, working families. For the first time in 3 years, our poverty levels are at 11%. 14% of our children are living in poverty. And 1 in 5 families struggle with food instability issues. Our families are increasingly becoming poorer, and I know it's very un-American to consider oneself poor. And these are things that we like to other. so as to divorce and disconnect ourselves from them. But our families are increasingly becoming poorer, and they will continue to for as long as we have the attention span of a gnat and consider these issues back burner. We'll volunteer at a soup kitchen during the holidays, pat ourselves on the back, and think we've done our duty. When food instability issues plague our families in this Commonwealth daily, we can't be seasonal in our advocacy. We need an equity in our outrage, and it has to be sustained. Dr. King knew the truth, that despite strides in desegregation and voting rights, full citizenship would never be realized without self-sufficiency. This is the time of year where we allow ourselves to be confronted by ourselves, to acknowledge that we are morally underachieving, to admit our biases and prejudice persist, and that the promise has not been kept. But this is also an opportunity to renew hope and to renew our commitment collectively to this work. I'm not delusional. I know that we can't eradicate poverty in one day, but there are certainly incremental steps that we can take to do exactly that. And we have a moral imperative to do so. I'll close with one of my favorite quotes. I hope you won't consider it blasphemy that it's not Dr. King. One of my sheroes, a female governor, formerly of Vermont, Madeline Kunin. I revisit her often as I challenge myself to consider the role of government and the impact that we can have. And Madeline Kunin challenged us in saying that at its best, when we get it right in government, that justice can triumph, that wrongs can be righted, and pain can be alleviated with the right fix. And I want nothing more to work with you to develop that right fix. Thank you.
Oh, applause was certainly strong. Thank you again, City Councilor at Large, Ms. Ayanna Pressley. Your words and actions and deeds certainly are inspirational to us all, and certainly inspirational on this day. And hopefully we caught the message of making this more than just a day and a long weekend. But that action is required throughout the year for all the Americans who are like us but need help. As they're coming up, I'd like to introduce the Winnaker Band and the Baker School Jazz Band. Every year, Bo Winnaker leads young people to the beauty of music, specifically jazz. The enthusiasm and skill of these young people is something to behold and admire. As they set up, please keep in mind there's nothing wrong with clapping and/or snapping to the music that always gets a rise out of the crowd. The tradition of interactive music and call and response in the African American church was something always dear to Dr. King. We get the privilege of enjoying such entertainment. They will be performing 3 selections: Song for My Father and The Preacher by Horace Silver, and I Wish by Stevie Wonder. Please give them a rounding applause.
true we can live like a king of you. Love your pleasure in life to be devoted to and always stand by me. So I'll be unafraid and free.
For he would teach from his heart about the only thing he knew. He would stand up there in the pulpit, hold in his hand,
and let my melody take you to promised land.
just for today, we'd like to change the words to Stevie Wonder's I Wish to, I wish there could be peace and harmony throughout the world.
What a fantastic performance. Every year, new kids come and some kids stay, but excellence never came. Thanks for a highly charged performance, as usual. Next, we'd like to bring back Bessa de Welt. They're going to sing a selection called Das Neue Lied. Das Neue Lied. Please welcome them. thank you for that beautiful piece. We'll be asking for one more before the program is over. So as we come towards the end of the program, in this day of remembrance, we revisit the lessons of one of our greatest teachers, one of our greatest ambassadors, and one of our greatest Americans. Dr. King's faith in all people, of all hues and beliefs, made us all better people and created a better society than the one he lived in. Thank you for sharing in the day of recognition of a man who shaped us all and all that we do. We'd like to take time to thank the Coolidge Corner Theater, I'd like to take time to thank all of the participants in today's program. In particular, we'd like to note City Councilor at Large, Ayanna Pressley, for being our keynote speaker. And to the town of Brookline, who commits to this program and works to make it purposeful for all its residents and neighbors. We'd also like to take a moment, something I've been doing, since I was MC and was asked to do, and it's a great opportunity to do it. We like to thank those who also walked and fought, whether it was writing, speaking, or being an activist, in the name of equality for all of us here during that time of the civil rights movement. And we always have some in the crowd. We ask if you participated in such activism, if you would please stand and be recognized, because we are all grateful to all of you for helping make our country and our community much better. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Jesse Mermel. We have to embarrass you a little bit, Jesse. You have to come up to the center on the stage. Jessie has moved on from her duties at Brookline. Come on, Jessie. This is not her thing at all. And we're neighbors, so I can embarrass her when she doesn't have her dog. She's moved on from her duties from Brookline to work for the Patrick administration. She's been the leader of the MLK celebration and committee, and has worked tirelessly to make this a fantastic event. Please help us in recognizing her for her valuable contribution to the town in today's event. More importantly, representative from the committee would like to present Jessie with a gift and saying thank you for all that you've done. We really appreciate it and wish you best of luck.
Jessie is a stickler for time. She blocks out this event minute by second.
We're ahead of time.
Anyway, but it's because of her leadership that this got together. It was off for a couple of years. It came back because Jessie got involved, and we wish you all the best. We just got a small token. We're going to get you flowers, but they'd be going in a couple of days. This is a lace collection of Dr. King's words. Time to show.
So as we conclude today's program and walk and drive or ride home, please be mindful of all that was presented today and what the day is really about. In particular, Ms. Pressley's message of continuing the ideals of Dr. King and today into an everyday, or I love her term that activism is not seasonal. That was a fantastic line. Just the idea that we need to continue this on, and many of us do, often without recognition, and that is fine. It is the little things that carry us through and make individuals better. So hopefully we keep that in mind. Other things to remind you of: the Sojourn kids will be at the doors And hopefully you can make a face to this new trip, these new kids that are going, who will have that experience of a lifetime, get a chance to communicate with them and get to know some of them before they leave in a month. And hopefully all of you have enjoyed the day and leave better people from the day. I'd like to ask Ambassador DeVelt one more time to lead us all in song as we depart, singing This Little Light of Mine. It's on page 6 in your program again. But please join in and have a wonderful Martin Luther King Day.